I want to first bring up our first speaker, the CEO of USA BioEnergy. They're out there doing great work. They've got some stuff going on in Texas and possibly in other states that I'm not going to talk about because, he's still working those. But I hopefully will be there for the next announcement when he makes those as well, too. Anyway, Nick, come on up.
Hello, my name is Nick Andrews, and I'm the CEO of USA BioEnergy. This other logo over here, Texas Renewable Fuels, that's one of our project-level companies in Texas. USA BioEnergy was created to develop a series of advanced biorefineries that turn forest wood waste into clean-burning sustainable aviation fuel. And as part of our process, we capture and sequester the CO2 permanently. This gives our sustainable aviation fuel some of the lowest carbon intensity score in the industry. USA BioEnergy is a developer and not a technology company. As such, we only use proven technologies that have been commercially deployed, funded, and insured previously. We're using gasification and Fischer-Tropsch to create, we're using gasification Fischer-Tropsch to convert woody biomass into SAF, and we choose wood because of its consistency, which is important because gasification loves consistency. We are working with the world's leading engineering firms and construction companies. These companies have subject matter experts in each of these technologies, and more specifically, the integration of these technologies. The EPC guarantees to build it on time and on budget, and that it will meet performance specifications. Our biorefinery design features carbon capture technology from both the process stream as well as the wood fire boiler, which is used for on-site green power generation. The carbon capture aspect of the plant allows us to produce extremely carbon negative fuel. We have a CO2 offtake agreement with a publicly traded company who has agreed to permanently sequester the CO2 geologically deep underneath the surface of the earth. We will securely store over 50 million metric tons of CO2 over the useful life of each advanced biorefinery. This allows our fuel purchasers to substantially offset their carbon footprint in order to reach their stated carbon neutrality goals. Our feedstock supply is southern yellow pine trees from purpose-grown plantations that are actively managed. We currently only use RFS certified commercial thinnings from privately owned and actively managed southern yellow pine plantations. This allows us to earn credits which will be certified by Weaver as RIN-tegrity credits. We recently commissioned an independent third-party feedstock supply study from forest to market. The study shows there's enough fiber within our supply basin to support 2 advanced biorefineries at our location in Bond Weir. And we currently have 143% of our feedstock under contract. We do this to show super redundancy to our lenders. U.S. woody biomass supply could support over 700,000 barrels per day of fuel production, or about 350 biofuel plants at 2,000 barrels a day. If we add all that up, based on normal operations, that would equate to just under 10 billion gallons of green fuel annually. This is a picture of our property in Bond Weir. You can see the trees there lined up in rows. This region grows pine trees like Iowans grow corn. We have a total of 1,600 acres, and the property is in an opportunity zone. The first phase will produce 34 million gallons of fuel annually. Out of that, 25 million will be sustainable aviation fuel, and the remainder will be, the other 9 million or so will be renewable naphtha. We expect our first fuel delivery in the first quarter of 2026. We have debt financing lined up through Citigroup and Stifel Nicolaus. Both banks have solid relationships with the top 25 high-yield bond buyers. Our municipal tax-exempt bonds will oversubscribe as seen in other renewable energy projects. We have also received a term sheet from Pace Equity for over $135 million, which will be used on the debt side of our capital stack. In a joint press release with Governor Greg Abbott, we recently announced an incredible incentive package valued at over $150 million. These incentives are largely property tax abatement and job training reimbursement. We plan to lead in the energy transition. We will deliver over 100 million gallons of sustainable aviation fuel into LAX annually. By eliminating 2.5 million metric tons of CO2 each year, along with our airline partners, we will reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 50 million metric tons over a 20-year period. We are developing several advanced biorefineries for the production of SAF. We currently have sites in Texas, Arkansas, and Mississippi. When it comes to the required infrastructure at the airport, who is responsible for the last mile? What I'm talking about is the SAF racks for rail and truck, the blending facilities at or near the airport, the SAF testing facilities, and the pipeline into the tank farm. SAF producers are not prepared to pay for this infrastructure. This is an excessive burden to get renewable fuels into airports. We've spoken with professional staffers at Senate Appropriations Subcommittee and Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development regarding gaps in sustainable aviation fuel infrastructure at airports. We have requested funding from the FAA Airport Improvement Program, which is a grant program which was created specifically to fund this infrastructure. Specifically, the AFCC and its member companies are requesting appropriating funds from the FAA grant program in the 2023 budget. We are urging Congress to provide specific directives to U.S. airports for development of infrastructure at SAF at all airports, not just California. We are advocating for a national low-carbon fuel standard. As of now, most producers plan to sell their fuel into California, and we are no different. But if given an opportunity, we would prefer to sell that fuel into Houston, DFW, or even Memphis. I'd like to encourage each of you to engage your state legislators and find champions to advocate for low-carbon fuel standards. Supply chain is a challenge because our fuels need to be blended and retested prior to being delivered into airports. This is a major challenge our team has been working diligently on because our off-takers require a solution for fuel delivery. The goal is to rail the fuel to California to a blending terminal and then pipe it into the airport. The challenge is most airports do not have rail access, and tank truck delivery is only practical in small volumes. These blending terminals need to be able to receive SAF produced from different processes, such as HEFA, ATJ, Fischer-Tropsch, as well as any other process that can produce compliant jet fuel blend components. There are challenges. One of the challenges, these projects are very expensive to build. Not only the total installed cost, but the total project cost includes all the belts and suspenders that are required by the lenders. Additionally, we're having a hard time estimating because of the hyperinflationary period we are currently in. It's very difficult today to get firm pricing on materials. Having policies that are stable would allow lenders to gain confidence, and that would be very valuable. The unpredictability of state and federal credits pricing and tax incentives impacts us because they are necessary to make the project's economics feasible. Advanced fuel producers need credits to make their projects financeable. If the runway is too short, you run into trouble with the lenders. Credits that sunset or inconsistent kill projects. Having a common sense approach that offers credits at the time the project reaches commercial operation date would prove to be very valuable. As of today, for us, it makes more financial sense to produce renewable diesel than it does sustainable aviation fuel. These credits here promote investment in low-carbon fuels and especially SAF. We are currently advocating for low-carbon fuel standards in Texas and Tennessee, and we support the Sustainable Skies Act. When it comes to offtake agreements, in order to get these projects funded, it requires offtake agreements that are financeable. If the offtake is tied to an index, it is considered to have merchant risk and provides no guaranteed minimum payment. Providing a fixed price for the fuel and the credits gives comfort to both debt and equity and would go a long way in getting this industry off the ground. An increased sense of urgency to slow the course of climate change must accelerate the readiness of sustainable aviation fuel for commercial use. Our goal is to roll out multiple advanced biorefineries as quickly as possible. We want to win the SAF Grand Challenge. If we win, we all win. Thank you for your attention. Here's my contact information. I do look forward to hearing from you.